Yes. Audio would be good.
Check. Yeah. A very good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here for this special session. We request you all to please remain seated. We begin now. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you all for this insightful talk by our esteemed alumnus, Mr. Srinivas Narayanan, Vice President of Engineering at OpenAI. To set the stage, I invite Professor Ashwin Mahalingam, Dean of Alumni and Corporate Relations Office, to please welcome the address.
Yeah. Hey, you don't have to clap for me. You have to clap for the person who's going to speak after me. Anyway, good evening and welcome to this talk. We have with us Srinivas Narayanan, who of course is an expert on AI. So we're really looking forward to what he has to say. He's also an alumnus of IIT Madras and a long-time supporter of a lot of the programs we do here, and also personally a friend. We overlapped. We were hostel mates for a year when he was in his final year, when I was in my first year. So Srinivas, very happy to have you here. The AI world has been thrown into disarray with DeepSeek and all of these recent developments. So we're really looking forward to hearing about what the future of AI looks like on multiple fronts. There are also lots of debates going on in India as to what we should be doing. Should we be building foundation models? Should we only be playing at the application level? And there are also broader concerns on the societal impacts of AI and how we should sort of think systematically about this. And I know we don't have time to have conclusive answers to all of these, but I'm pretty sure that this talk is going to touch upon some of these and sort of illuminate what Srinivas thinks are potential future directions for AI. So with that, welcome home, Srinivas, and looking forward to this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We now have a deep delve into the deeper conversations with the Fireside panel. For this, I would like to invite Mr. Srinivas Narayanan on stage, please, followed by Professor Ravindran, the head of the Department of Data Science and Artificial Intelligence.
So we had a slight change of plan. As soon as they said DeepSeek, I said I'm not going to give a talk. So no, so I think Ravi has to go somewhere. So we're going to chat for a bit initially, and then I will do the talk.
So thanks for accommodating the change at the last minute. And once again, I'll join Ashwin in welcoming you back to IITM. And I know that you have been really engaged with IIT Madras. Not that you just come because OpenAI asked you to come. So thank you for being a great supporter. No, I mean, he is an ideal alum. So all the students out here, so learn from him, right? He keeps engaging with IIT Madras, even though he doesn't have to. And you should do the same thing. Anyway, so thank you. So yeah, let's get going. So I think Ashwin kind of gave us the lead in. Nowadays, I mean, I keep going around giving various AI talks, but the first thing I have to do is open the news channel in the first morning to figure out if any new model has come out from China, and then have to incorporate that in my talk that day. So what is happening? So how is this changing the whole landscape for you?
Yeah. By the way, amazing to be here. And it's not like I've not been at IITM after I graduated, so I keep coming pretty much every year. I have ongoing interactions with Ravi and others in the CS department as well. So, but just amazing to be here and super excited to be talking to you all. Yeah, I mean, I think the first and foremost, what is happening in AI is just very historic, very unprecedented. I keep saying this, it's the biggest technological transformation of all of our lifetimes. And that is super exciting. I think competition, whenever you have such profound technological change and such massive opportunity, you have to expect competition, right? So that is not surprising. I think specifically, I think DeepSeek is one, but I would just even more broadly, we've had competition for a long time. There's fantastic work happening in other labs. And Llama, I used to work at Meta, by the way, before I was at OpenAI, and a lot of my friends are working in Llama, and it's a great team. I respect them a lot. And so in other companies too. So I don't think competition is anything new, but for us at OpenAI, we have a very clear vision of how we think AGI should be built. I don't think that has changed very fundamentally, to be honest. Maybe the interesting thing that we have learned from DeepSeek is that they've done some things that are efficient and that we can learn from. But the level of efficiency has been extremely over-exaggerated, right? So people talk about the cost to build a single model. And that is obviously not the cost of running an entire AI lab. If you take the cost of a single model that OpenAI would train, maybe our most recent runs, it'd probably be pretty comparable. But it's much harder to lead. You have to run hundreds and maybe a lot more experiments to decide finally decide what model you're going to train, right? And the cost and the infrastructure and the resources you need to run all those experiments is pretty significant. And when you add all that up, it's not really clear that there is like a very big delta between what other countries or companies are doing and what OpenAI is doing. Having said that, like I said, yeah, they did innovate in some ways, and we will learn. They learned a lot from what we did. We learned from them, and that's sort of how we all progress.
Okay, so I mean, all these models that are coming out of China, and of course Llama as well, which you are involved with, right? They're all open models. So is this making OpenAI think about their model?
So, I mean, yeah, I think, Sam even said in our last AMA on Reddit, which I did with him, it's like, he definitely wants to rethink this. So for us, it's always been a few things, right? Which is we are very thoughtful about safety. We're worried about how AI models will be used and changed in all sorts of ways. So that has always been in the back of our heads before we decide whether to open source something or not. I think there's two answers. One, yeah, we will rethink this and we'll see whether there's something that we can do here that'll be helpful. But the second thing I would also say is, independent of whether the model is open weight or open source or whatever, when we talk to a lot of people in the world, people, one, they want a great service. They want to be able to use AI easily at low cost, that is reliable, that has all the tools, and that's a very massive segment. That doesn't, just having an open model doesn't mean you get all that, right? So that's a huge audience for us, like consumers who are using, students who are using this. Then even developers care about the ability to customize the models in very interesting ways. And we give a lot of tools for developers to do that. We recently launched reinforcement fine-tuning, which is a very fundamentally new way of customizing models As an expert in RL, you would know that, right? So, and I think it's the entire ecosystem and the set of tools and everything that you have, and it's not just about whether something is open weight or open source or whatever.
So, but something like the Red Hat enterprise model and those things don't work. You really need, I mean, I'm just extending what you said, right? You still need your Microsoft Windows. Is that where you're going to be?
Sorry, can you repeat the
I
question?
said, I mean, even though you have open source operating systems like, and you also have enterprise support like Red Hat Enterprise, you still need your Windows for certain kinds of applications. So that's kind of how the field is going to play out. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think open source is one component of it, and I think that's interesting, and I think that's useful. But like I said, a lot of the world cares about actually having really, really good services that you can rely on. Some of them are built on open source, some of them are built on other things. And so I think for a lot of other people, they do need the higher level abstractions as well.
Yeah. So I want to actually go a little deeper into when you said the cost differential is not that great, right? But then if you look at the pricing models, right, the per million token prices that DeepSeek is offering versus what OpenAI offers, that's still a big difference.
Not that much anymore. If you look at our O3 Mini, if you compare the inference cost of running of many of the providers in the US, O3 Mini is cheaper and it's a better model. If you compare the inference cost of maybe what DeepSeek had, it's in the ballpark, it's probably slightly above, but this will all whittle down fairly quickly. I don't believe that there will be a pricing differentiation in the steady state between open source and closed source models.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So other thing you have to realize is if you look at the price curve, price keeps coming down every several months, right? If you compare GPT-4 a year ago to now, it's probably come down like 95%. And so what you see is that there is this curve that as we continue to improve and optimize models, the price keeps coming down. DeepSeek was another point on that curve. We're going to be at another point on that curve as well, right? And so I don't think like there is a fundamental difference here. It's just they had a newer model that was later than us, and so when we have another model later than them, we'll catch up and others will too. Okay. So I don't think that's a big difference.
So I'm pretty sure all of us are very eagerly awaiting more price drops. So
you should look at actually O3 Mini, right? We just launched it like a few days ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I had another question for you. So I know Pragya asked me to be nice when I got on stage, but I'm not going to be nice. So between the two trips of Sam Altman to India, his outlook on India seems to have become super positive from what it was the last time. So what changed?
Okay. So I don't want to answer for Sam, but I've been working with Sam for 2 years. He's always been super optimistic about India. He's super excited. I think whatever he said maybe in his last trip was taken out of context. But I think we actually had a really good conversation with the Minister for IT a couple of days ago. And, the minister said, the India wants to build a full stack. And we said, yeah, we're very happy to support and help India in whatever way we can, right? Right from, hardware to chips to like models to applications and inference and everything. So we're here to help. And we're super, for the other thing why I think Sam's here, of course I'm here also because of my alma mater, but also why we all care is that our mission is to make AGI beneficial for all of humanity. India is the largest democracy. The opportunity to make AI beneficial for people here is so amazing. And we had an amazing developer event 2 days ago in Delhi, and I met so many amazing founders, right? People are building personalized education apps. People are reinventing healthcare. People are reinventing how legal system works here. And this is all what we dreamed of when we started building AI, that AI is going to impact every sector of society. To see it happening, of course, it's still in the early days, but it's just that energy is incredible and the opportunity is incredible. And so we are here to figure out how to help and how to make all of this possible.
So you said you're looking at, helping out India in a big way, right? So if you think about the Indian language support and things like that, I think Llama is way ahead of OpenAI models right now.
I'm happy to look at comparisons, so we can do. But I was going to talk about our models have gotten much better in Indic languages. Mm-hmm. You go talk to developers who are building on us, like they are all using it in Indian languages. They're not just using it in English. And so and we are committed to making it better.
Sure. And one last piece. So one of the things that I have been talking about quite a bit, especially with this advent of everybody is trying to use the Gen AI models as the base for building their AI systems, is the risk of what we call cultural erasure. Right? So I mean, if you go to these models and you ask questions about specifically about India and stuff like that, it still gives you pretty vague or very generic answers. Is there any effort within OpenAI to address this kind of local cultural issues as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, I would say the broader theme is that obviously these models were trained on certain data sets, and then when we deploy them in the real world, we learn a lot, right? It works in some cases, it doesn't work in some cases, and what you're saying is one instance of that. It's not working in certain specific Indian context or whatever. So we are absolutely committed to improving all those. One of the things we launched recently is this ability for developers to give feedback on our models. And you can say that this is not working for me in these use cases. And by default, for example, when developers use and build on our API, we don't train on their data because they don't want that. But here is a very opted-in way for you to say, this model needs to get better in these areas, and can you please help? And so, yeah, we go and we understand that and we fix it. But we actually, we were very happy to work with you all and say, if there are challenges in Indian languages or Indian cultures that we're not getting, we'll go and fix them. Yeah. The recipes for fixing, are already there. It's just a matter of focus and getting it.
Yeah, at least in a resource poor setting. I mean, I'm not talking about actual monetary resources. I'm talking about more linguistic resources
Data.
and cultural resource poor setting. It's still quite a bit of work to be done. I'm happy that you guys have signed up to do that. And I'm hoping that we'll hear more about this during your address.
Yeah.
So I have to. So thank you for thank you for taking the time to be with us. And
Great chatting. Yeah.
So people are wondering, I actually have a flight to catch. That's why I'm running.
Can you all hear me? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So I'll probably spend 15, 20 minutes or so giving you all a little bit of a view into what's happening in AI, why it's historic, and where we are heading into the future, what's possible, what are people building, what we can build in the future. We've had obviously a very, very profound improvement in the intelligence of models over the last few years, right? And even just playing out over the last couple of years, ever since we launched GPT-4, we've improved the models tremendously. And the GPT-4 series with 4.0 and more recently with the O1 and O3 models have just led to really, really exponential progress in intelligence, and has just enabled amazingly new class of applications that we are building. And to give you a little bit of insight into how much we have improved in the last few years, this is the GPT era where we do very large pre-training of AI models. I assume a lot of you are somewhat familiar with AI, so this is a fairly high-level talk, so I think you should be able to follow, but hopefully you can also follow along some of this. So this is the progression on one of the benchmarks called MMLU, Massive Multimodal Language Understanding, and Massive Multitask Language Understanding. And then this is the quality of the GPT series of models, right? 2, 3, 4. And then you see how well it has gone literally from low 20s to upper 80s in a matter of 2 years. Next, since the GPT era, we've also had a reasoning era starting from the O1 series of models last year. And this is a slightly different way of training models where you're not just doing large pre-training, but you're teaching the model to think in context and to reason through complex problems by applying more compute at the time of answering questions, right? And so here again, you see on the right side, you see the orange bars that tells you O1 is the first model in the series of reasoning models. The improvement is again very, very substantial, and compared to even 4.0. And now it's not just O1 is the first model in the reasoning series, but now we're going to have O3. O3 is not launched yet. We launched O3 Mini, and O3 is going to come fairly soon. And again, you see that the quality of improvement in many of these tasks, and here you see software engineering tasks, coding competitions, and then there's math benchmarks. the improvement is just very profound, right? In a very short period of time, literally in a matter of months from O1 to O3. This is another benchmark that is supposed to be a hard one for AI. And the idea is that you show the model a pattern and with just one or two examples, and then the model has to understand what's actually going on and come up with the answer, right? It's not that hard for humans to do this, but it's been hard for AI models to understand this in the past. In this case, basically, if most people here will figure this out, right? You count the number of colored squares, and then you draw a boundary with that number of colored squares around the original box. That's what the model is trying to do. Historically, it's been very, very hard for AI to understand these things, right? And now, you see this, that the recent models are doing extremely well in these types of tasks. So if you look at on the previous task, the O3 series model gets close to 87.5%. And that benchmark was literally in the mid-teens and low 20s earlier, right? So the progression here is really astounding and quite exciting. And again, like I said, one of the fundamental primitives that we have launched is the previous paradigm of training was just training with more compute and more data. And now with the reasoning models, we can apply more compute at the time when we ask questions. And that's called inference compute scaling. And that has unlocked another dimension of scaling where we can get you can get better performance with just asking the model to think longer and taking more time to answer questions. Okay, so hopefully you kind of got a sense for where we are heading with these models. I think it's just really, really exciting. And what's also exciting is not just O1 or O3, but where we are heading, right? So what is O4 going to look like? What's O5 going to look like? And at this point, we're running out of benchmarks to solve, right? And the expectation is that very likely this year, AI is going to be better at humans in lots and lots of things that we can verify or we can express as tasks. And that's a very profound thing to be able to have at our disposal. Jumping a little bit from kind of the model perspective to products. And so ChatGPT, many of you would have probably used this. And this was literally, a little over 2 years ago. The OpenAI team just launched this. We didn't really know what was going to happen. We thought it was just like going to be it's a research preview, people wouldn't care about it, but literally, of course, the world really caught on to this, and it took the entire world by storm, right? And there's something quite magical about it because it's the first time we as humans were able to talk to AI in very natural ways, ask questions that you would ask other people. The model was able to generalize, and if you ask new questions, it would give you reasonably good answers. And that was super exciting. And ChatGPT now has over 300 million weekly active users, and we reached 100 million just literally in a matter of months. Very unprecedented. And now people are using it to do lots and lots of different things, analyzing data, workflows, programming assistance, and I'll give you maybe one example here. Let's see. Oops. Oh no, for some reason the file isn't playing. Okay, that was supposed to be a demo with a video showing, but let me see. I'll keep moving forward. Essentially what it means is people are using it for huge amount of, for productivity. And we see massive improvements in productivity when people are using ChatGPT, right? And this is from a survey that we did. And it's pretty exciting. And so this has also been an amazing time for developers to build. And we talked about cost a little bit. So just to give you a sense of how much cost has come down, right? And literally from a couple of years ago, things are many orders of magnitude cheaper. And this is going to keep going down. And we've had 150 times decrease in cost just compared to 2 years ago. So that means also that it's really exciting for developers to build interesting applications and build useful things on top of it. For some reason, none of my videos are playing. That was possible. Let's actually try, because otherwise this would be. Pragya. Okay, that looks a little bit better. There we go. Okay, thank you, Pragya. So this was an example I was trying to show earlier. People are using ChatGPT to code, and in this case, you're trying to create a very simple quiz app. And you can see how natural it is, right? You don't even need to do programming. You just kind of ask it to create a quiz app, you give it some prompts. ChatGPT is coming up with all the code. And now we have this new thing called Canvas, which also allows you to run this code in line. And so that's what happened there. And there, boom, you have a quiz app, and you can kind of go and play with this. This happened in less than 1 or 2 minutes, right? And so I think when you give people these tools, it's just going to be magical to see what people are going to create. Okay, so I talked about this. Yeah, so I'm going to give you a couple of examples of things people are creating. And these are all developers in India who are creating amazing things for both for the Indian consumer and for the rest of the world. And here, this is a video generation app. They're not using Sora, they're actually using GPT-4o. And they're using GPT-4o to just come up with custom prompts and then use imagery to basically just blend and stitch together a video, right? Again, you don't need to be a filmmaker, you don't need to be a creator, and it's amazing to be able to see what people can create. And they're doing really well, right? They have millions of users using these systems. Another example.
Delivery industry in India is absolutely exploding given the rise of quick commerce, which is expected to double in the next year. Close to 500,000 people are hired in delivery jobs in India every single month. With that growth, obviously, rising the need for a platform that can recruit at high volume, but also at very, very high velocity. My name is Madhav. I'm the founder and CEO of Vahan. We built a marketplace for blue-collar recruitment in India. We are now India's largest recruitment platform. In fact, we're also the largest recruitment platform for the quick commerce and delivery space. Vahan has developed a marketplace that connects employers with human recruiters. And more than 70 to 80% of hiring in the blue-collar space in India is actually done by small recruitment agencies. So what we've done is built a platform that can connect these two.
Hello, good afternoon. मेरा नाम अदिति है।
हाँ मैम, ठीक है।
डिलीवरी जॉब के लिए।
हाँ मैम, बोलिए मैम।
स्विगी में आप फूड, ग्रोसरी या पार्सल डिलीवर कर सकते हैं। क्या आप स्विगी में काम करना चाहेंगे?
ओके मैम, बट सैलरी कितना मिलेगा मैम?
स्विगी में आपका अच्छा कमाई होगा। आप महीने के 30,000 रुपए तक कमा सकते हैं।
So you get the idea. All that was built on top of AI tools, top of the OpenAI developer platform, right? And so there's speech. The model is learning to listen to the person, understand what they are asking, answer the question. And so that's, again, another really, really interesting example. This is probably some things that you might be aware of. There was somebody who created an AI agent that completely fundraised for a startup. And, Sam has said this before, like, we think there's going to be founders who are going to build billion-dollar startups individually. Like, I think this just gives to the massive opportunity that we have given these powerful tools. And I wanted to show these as examples of things that's possible, and all of you are probably figuring out what you want to do after college. And so I think it's just an incredibly exciting time to build. So I'll talk a little bit about the future, right? Where are we heading? You saw the GPT series of models. You saw the O1 reasoning models. You saw a lot of these amazing applications people are creating, what people are doing with ChatGPT, a little bit into what's coming in the future as a result, right? So if you look a little bit at what happened in the last few years and where we are heading, we got chatbots. We were super popular. We're starting to see the reasoning models come to fore, and that has just happened in the last several months. And these reasoning models are really good at problem solving in science and math, and they can take maybe minutes to think and come up with answers, right? So that's we're starting to see the evolution of that today. What is going to happen in the future is that these reasoning models will be able to take on much more complex tasks on our behalf and solve more complex problems that may take maybe minutes or hours for us to do, maybe even days in the future, right? And they're going to be autonomous. They're going to take goals on our behalf and think for very long periods of time to solve them. And they might come back and tell us, ask clarifying questions. And they have to learn how to interact with the world, whether that's eventually will happen with robotics as well, but at least in the initial phases, they will learn how to use online tools. They will learn how to use applications, whether it's, whether it's delivery applications, whether it's your banking application, whether it's your healthcare systems, et cetera, right? So the ability to use tools and APIs to do tasks on our behalf is going to be incredibly exciting. There's a couple of themes underlying this agentic future. One is multimodality, and the second is reasoning. And I think combining these two ends up creating really interesting stuff. On multimodality, a couple of years ago, we were in this paradigm where we had to build models for each modality individually. We had a different model for images, we had a different model for speech, a different model for text. And what we have now is that all these modalities are getting combined into a single model. The model is natively multimodal. You can send text in or audio in. Eventually, it'll also do video in, video out. We don't quite have video in, video out today, but image in, image out, speech in, text in, all this is happening. And that's also making multimodal, low latency applications possible. I'll play this very quickly. This is a real-time speech-to-speech application that we launched basically last year. And really, you should notice how fluent and how natural the voice is and how low latency it is. I'll play this for maybe a few seconds.
Hey, ChatGPT, how's it going?
Hey there. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And how about you? What's up?
I'm doing fine. I'm gonna be a father real soon, and I think I can have your help with some dad jokes. I'm gonna tell you a joke, and you tell me if it passes as a dad joke.
That's awesome. Congrats on the upcoming addition to your family. And absolutely, I'd love to hear your joke. Lay it on me.
All right. What do you call a giant pile of kittens?
I don't know. What?
A mountain.
A mountain. That's perfectly hilarious.
Okay, maybe the joke wasn't that good, but but you saw how natural the voice is, right? And you can interrupt the AI. It has emotion in the voice. It laughs, and so this is just really, really interesting. And I think that enables us to do other cool stuff too. And so I'm going to play other thing with multimodality is video generation. So this is Sora, and it's just creating incredibly rich images based on just prompts that you can enter it, right? And so use a few examples. So I think what is also magical about this is that now you're putting creative tools in the hands of every person in the world. We were talking to one of the most well-known filmmakers in India just 2 days ago, Shekhar Kapoor. I wasn't sure if I can say that, but yes, we talked to Shekhar Kapoor, who's really well-known. And he was talking about how kids in Dharavi, in the slums of Mumbai, are using these to now create videos, and they're becoming filmmakers themselves, right? So it's just amazing to see that when you put tools in hands of people, now you've enabled so many more people to create things, to tell stories, to program, like code, like I talked about earlier. So I think it's just amazing to see that now you're providing expertise to people at scale and seeing what they're coming up with. So talked about multimodality. The other thing is reasoning. And really the main thing about reasoning is that the model can take longer time, think about the problem. When we ask humans a question, depending on the complexity of their question, we would take different amounts of time to come up with an answer, right? That wasn't how the previous generation of models worked. If you go to GPT-4o and in ChatGPT and ask a question, no matter how complex the question, it's just going to give you an answer immediately. Now it gets it reasonably well in some cases, but if you ask hard math questions or hard science questions, it doesn't give you a great answer because it needs more time to think and reason through the problem, right? So that is fundamentally what's now possible with the reasoning models, that you can take longer, think through this, analyze your thinking, decide whether you're on the right track or not, and then come up with an answer. And I'll give you one example of this, which is a product that we launched just earlier this week called Deep Research. And here you can give the model a fairly ambiguous open-ended question, and it can go search the internet, compile information, generate charts and graphs, and come back to you. And this typically now takes humans maybe many hours or many days, sometimes even to do this, right, over time. And now the model can do this and in a very succinct way in a matter of minutes. So let's look at this. So here, basically, yeah, we're asking to see how the retail industry has changed in the last few years. And it's a fairly open-ended question. Like, and interestingly, the model comes back to you immediately and asks clarifying questions, like what exactly do you want, right? And then you respond to this. So now it's working in the background. It's doing web search, figuring out what sources of information are right. It's thinking about, it's reading the results, it's thinking what to do as a next step. And again, it's this iterative process. It's not just doing one search and compiling. It's understanding the results. It's probably doing follow-up, going searching other things, following links, what makes sense. And eventually it comes up with a report, right? And this all happens in probably a matter of minutes. Again, this is just going to be incredible to see how we can put reasoning models to use to solve more complex tasks. I said the ability to solve more complex tasks is sort of like what we mean by agents of the future, and I think this is one of the first examples of the agentic future. I'll give you another example of an agentic future. This is Operator that we launched, I think, maybe several weeks ago. And this is an example of the model using the web and within a browser and clicking links and operating the web like a human would, right? So you give it a fairly open task, which is you want to make a restaurant reservation on Zomato, right? Today we would go to Zomato, we would search, you'll see, okay, what time you want to do this, what type of cuisine, blah, blah, blah. And the model is learning to do all that. It is figuring out what to search for. It knows how to click on the links. It'll figure out if there's time slots are available, and eventually it'll go and make the booking on your behalf, right? And so, again, an example of AI operating in a very autonomous way in a browser context. So the other thing I talked about is the agents of the future will not just answer questions on our behalf, they're going to do tasks on our behalf. And one of the primitives you need to do tasks is, if you want to call APIs, APIs have very structured ways of thinking, right? You have to give it an input in a certain format. And the models can also give you, can basically generate what inputs you need for the API in very structured ways. So this is what we call structured outputs in our developer APIs. And so this would be an output of the model that you can feed into another model and call another agent, as an example. So I think that's the future we are heading towards, where you're going to be able to create these incredibly interesting agents. And agents can be of lots of different types. You can have a customer service agent. You can have a financial assistant as an agent. You can have a coding assistant as an agent that you can ask complex coding questions and it will go do and write the code for you, test it, verify it, and come back. And I think we're going to live in this world where there are lots of these different agents exist, and all these agents are also going to learn to talk to each other, right? And do even more complex tasks on our behalf. And I think this is going to be a very, very profound shift, and it's going to be incredibly exciting. There's also lots of interesting questions we have to figure out as a society, and what this means, and what are the jobs of the future going to be? How do we make these safe so that when AI is working on our behalf, they're safe, they're secure, they're able to do things on our behalf within our values. And so there's lots of really interesting challenges and open problems as well. And we're working through them, and we're super excited to build all that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insightful talk. I would like to invite Ms. Pragya Mishra also on stage. She leads India on Policy and Partnerships for OpenAI. We are now open to the audience for question and answers.
Yeah, can I ask?
Hi, this is Naveen. I'm research scholar from ED. So I think other research scholars might relate to my question. I know we have to do our research on our own, but let's say I'm looking to find out about a topic, and there is a research published in 2013 which is open source and you can access that information freely on the web. And there is another research which completely contradicts the one published in 2013, but it is behind a paywall and published in 2020. So when I ask the question related to that topic to ChatGPT, what is the answer that it is going to give me?
Yeah, I mean, the model is, so there's two ways to do this, right? One is what is the model pre-trained on, and it imbibes certain knowledge based on what it was pre-trained on. But we will also have to enable the model to access real-time information, because the world is not static. There is always going to be new sources of information, right? Some of them we happen through search, where if there are new websites or other things that you can access, since the model was trained, it should have access to that. So we have that capability now. When I talk about agentic futures, they also need to interact and connect to real-time sources of information. So in this case that you're talking about with the paywall, if you have access to that through the paywall, we want to be able to build systems that they can say, hey, here is a source of information that I have. Do you have access to it? And if you provide the relevant authorization or whatever, the model should be then able to do that and provide that to you.
How efficiently would it do that? Like if I just provide the information at that point?
Yeah, I think that should work, because there's lots of different tools and techniques to do this. We do retrieval augmented generation. There are other techniques that will come up as well. Model context will increase, so you can probably put a lot inside the model context as well. So the ability to access real-time information and summarize and generate insights, it's absolutely going to happen.
Yeah, can I?
Oh, hi sir, my name is Prathamesh, and a few days back I was just curious about the carbon innovation done by ChatGPT. Each query we input on ChatGPT, and so I was very surprised that it is almost thrice of bulbing using a highly efficient electricity bulb for almost 3 hours. So my question is OpenAI focusing on making it more energy efficient?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think inference efficiency is a huge thing for us. We're going to constantly work on it. When we talk about cost, a big part of that is making the models more efficient, right? And so that cost curve is going to keep coming down. And as a result of that coming down, we'll be more efficient as well. And of course, we also want to be open about using efficient sources of energy to run our data centers and other things. But yeah, the optimization and inference efficiency, you will see a lot more progress there as well.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, so few months before, I have asked a question in Stack Exchange regarding, can LLMs have intentions? It's a weird question, but I asked, can LLM have intentions? And it was a philosophy exchange. So then they talk about what do we mean by intention. And the conversation goes like they discussed in that. And then it concluded that LLMs, like we humans are somewhat very close to LLMs. And so we do entire education, like this is an educational institute. So it's like we get trained as an LLM. And after that we will perform our job. And many of us are, I think, are just very close to LLM. It's not a joke, but many people do not understand the in-depth idea of what is going on. They know words. So I'm asking, how do you think this ChatGPT and this language model should be affecting the educational institute? What are the things we should stop teaching? And so like in this, and the existential crisis this can create to our generations, because we have spent a huge amount of things learning the things which is now of zero value. So
yeah, this is an amazing question. I don't think I'll have a simple answer, but this is something that Ashwin and I talked about it when he was the last time I met him, which is we should really have an in-depth discussion about how we should use AI in education and how our education system needs to change. So my fundamental belief is that you have an amazing new tool and people are already using it in all sorts of interesting ways. And people are also concerned about this, right? Which is that people are saying that students are becoming lazy. They're not actually learning anything. They're just sending everything into the AI, and the AI is just giving the answer, and they're just doing that. And those are real questions that we have to think about and answer seriously. My personal belief is that the more we think of AI as a tool, and the more we leverage that in our education process, and we empower and enable people to do that, I think we're going to be better off. Now, that is exactly what form it takes and how do we do that, I think that is going to be a little bit more context dependent. And I think we're going to have to, I don't have all the answers, but I think we have to think about this a lot more and figure out how we can enable AI to help us learn better. I think there's also massive amounts of positive things here, right? Which is AI can make learning a lot more personalized. It can deeply understand what stage of learning you are at, right? Are you understanding the intricacies of this specific question? Why are you not doing that? And provide in-context advice. And there's lots of really good examples of that too. So I think there's obviously a huge amount of benefit. There's also downsides and concerns as well. And so we have to learn how to evolve our education system to deal with this.
Another thing, if I use a chat GPT to train another model, so I'm generating information to train another model, is this legal?
Distillation, yes. I think we have certain policies and procedures. So we do actually have an API where you can use distillation from our bigger models to train your own smaller models. I don't know if that the ChatGPT, we generally say we don't allow distillation, but yeah, I think probably the world is doing that anyway.
So I think if we are using ChatGPT for our learning, so isn't it like a distillation of the, like you're training yourself using ChatGPT information? So like it's maybe an interesting thing.
Learning is distillation in some ways, right?
Yeah, can I go?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir. My name is Sain Jaiswal. I'm a student here and building a startup from Nirmana ITM. So, while doing the pilot test, earlier, we were taking 3 hours for listing a shop, right? But currently, using the Chat GPT, OpenAI GPT-4 model, 4.0 model. So now, in 2 minutes, we can list the shop. So thanks for building this tool. But my question is currently human translators it is very slow in the OpenAI API. For example, currently there are so many languages in the India, and we want to enable voice commerce features. Means for example, if there is a restaurant and there are 70 products in that, so I want to give the features in our app that I can any customer can talk I want to eat something spicy, or I want to eat something sweet, and so I think AI should answer in the dialectic language, whatever it is, Tamil, Hindi, right? But it should be in the real time. But currently, as we are training, so AI is answering somewhere in the wrong way. So we are not able to implement that feature.
Yeah, feedback taken. We are working on improving our models in all languages and dialects, and you should continue to expect improvement there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sir, what's your support for the ITM startup, through the OpenAI credits, can we get so that we can build the things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we're thinking about extending the API credit program. So let's talk after this. At least the people in the room here who are building and developing, we would love to connect and see what we can do locally. And just specifically on your question around language performance, and also what Professor Bala had earlier asked is, even now in all the evals, and this is third-party evals that have been done on our products, on our models, we're still actually way above the rest of the models. And of course, these are things that keep shifting and changing. But while it's not ideal, I absolutely agree. Being here, I interact with the model in Hindi, I know a little bit of Tamil, and so I feel like it doesn't do as well. But, it's still a model which is 2.5 years old, and I know we want it to be perfect, but I think we're going to get there, and we're going to make sure that we actually source local data sets, and we're working with many partners on the ground to do that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. So my vision is to build the world's largest AI-driven local marketplace. So I think it's great to you are building. So it is making our vision easier while implementing the things, and I'm very much optimistic that OpenAI will solve this problem of like translating the things, translating the text in the real time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my question was related to building apps on top of LLM platforms today, right? Here.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So today there are like distinctly layers, right? So you have your like for apps mostly that use the ChatGPT API, for example, right? You have that running somewhere, and then you mostly get a limited amount of information through your API, and then your application runs somewhere else, right? If you take Cursor, for example, the code editor, right? But in many ways, your application could be much better if you could vertically integrate them. And this was true for everything. Like we had Auto GPT and so on before, but the product made by OpenAI itself, like the search and everything integrated in chat.com, that is much better, of course, simply because more vertical integration is possible. So do you think this will always be true, and that to make certain apps economically, you would have to have your vertical integration, which will obviously blow up the costs, like because of GPUs being really expensive? Or do you think it's possible to expose more information through the API that will enable things to be done on the client side as well, like KV cache compression, for example?
Yeah, I think the honest answer is probably combination of both. There are some things that are probably better because you can integrate more into the model. Like search is a good example. Like we've custom trained a model for search. It's not just any model that we have done, and so integration into the product makes sense. But then you also see there's so many different applications built on top of our APIs, which are all very successful, right? And I don't think you necessarily need that, whatever you're calling as integration into a LLM loop or whatever. I think you can easily build very good applications on top. I think we're going to also continue to provide better primitives over time, right? We've always continued to provide more ways for people to customize their things. You can do RFT fine-tuning now. You can do distillation now. We have more knobs in the API. So I think we're going to continue to provide more and more tools for model customization for people. And then we'll kind of see, I think there'll be a spectrum of options from people using those tools versus just building simpler applications on top.
I think just to add, and half of what I'm going to say, I've learned from Srinivas. So it's basically, if you see the Healthify app, to Srinivas's point on, as the intelligence gets better, you need to teach the models very little for it to start to give you, exponential results in terms of just the leap that it has in intelligence. And so Healthify is, as you know, it's a health app, and it helps you, kind of lose weight, stay fit, all of those pieces. And they're using our already existing vision models to just take pictures and videos of what's on your plate, and they tell you what the calorie intake is, whether it's balanced or not, you need more carbs, you need less protein, all of those pieces. And so they have done a little bit of fine-tuning, but not much. And that's simply because the model intelligence from 3.5 to 4.0 has increased so much that the model learns really, really fast and starts to give you the outcomes you're looking for.
Can I? Balu Ranganathan here from Canberra Therapeutics. We are a startup here. Is there any way out that ChatGPT can predict? We completely work on breast cancer therapeutics. Can any of your APIs are near to that to predict the recurrence of breast cancer? I'm just putting it across to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the specifics on. You should probably play with our APIs and see. I don't know the domain deeply enough to know how well it will do. But the model is generally good at understanding a domain deeply based on data that you provided and able to generalize it. And we know that people are using AI for lots of different health applications, right? I know it's very popular in radiology, for example. So I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, I can't answer that question very precisely, but yeah, I think it's worth trying.
So I'm Akshay here, so here, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So one doubt I had was, by scaling during the inference time, would we hinder the democratization of AI in normal use cases? Because it's essentially having more tokens per query.
So what's the question? Sorry, can you repeat it?
Like by scaling during the inference time, do we hinder the democratization of AI in different platforms or different industries? Because per query I have to spend more tokens now.
Yeah. I mean, I think the answer is, by using more tokens, yes, you're using more compute, you have to pay more, but you're also enabling entirely new possibilities, right? So you're democratizing definitely in one dimension, which is that you're now opening up the aperture much wider to a broader set of things that wasn't possible before. Yes, it's going to be more expensive in the short term to solve those, but you should also bank on the cost of the underlying model coming down. You should also bank on the amount of reasoning steps it might take to solve a problem coming down. You should also bank on people fine-tuning a model to get the answers for their specific tasks at lower cost, right? So you will have all these. Once there is an existence proof that you have a new thing, the entire industry and the ecosystem works to just drive costs down. You have seen this over and over again. So I think it's actually more a positive than a negative that you have opened up an entire new aperture.
Right. Hi, sir. Aryan here. I wanted to talk about Stargate. What problems do you see yourself facing, or are you facing right now with scaling up infrastructure for these models?
Yeah, AI needs a lot of power, right? It needs a lot of power because we have to continue to train large models, and there's a lot of research left to be done. There's very clearly scaling laws that are still applicable. We know that if you apply more compute, both at the training phase as well as for the reasoning models, you generally get better models. So definitely to build AI, you need a lot more compute. And also too, to deliver the benefits of AI to all people all over the world, you need compute for building products as well and to support those products. So we know that we're going to need a very, very massive amount of compute. In some ways, it's like electricity, right? Imagine a world without electricity today? We can't. But if you roll back 100 years, or 120 years, that's when electricity basically started. But now we have power grids, it's just we take this for granted. I think intelligence and AI is something as fundamental as that. And so in order to deliver the benefits of that, we need massive amounts of compute to do this. And so Stargate is fundamentally an investment in ability to get that compute, both to build models and to deliver the benefits of AI through products. And yeah, I mean, lots of challenges. We have to build more efficient data centers. We have to find power in the right places. We have to innovate at every layer of the stack, whether it's from chips to how do we build data centers for AI, how do we deliver benefits and all of that. So I think there's lots of interesting problems to work on.
Hello, sir. Over here to your left. Just a second. So I'm Adar, sir. So we've seen a lot of improvements in language models, right? But over the past few years, we've also seen robotic foundation models emerging. So I wanted to ask what's OpenAI's take on that and what direction they are trying to see on robotic foundation models.
Yeah, I don't have anything concrete to say, but I think what is really interesting is that the robotics world is also changing quite a bit. And the ability, there's now like vision language models, there's other things. So what we believe is that, maybe there is a previous era of robotics where you had to solve robotics in very different ways. You had to do perception, you had to do planning, and it's a different era of building AI. There's maybe a much more efficient and a simpler way of building foundation models for robotics, because with the generative AI type of approach, models can generalize really well. They are more multimodal in nature, and they can reason about things in much more simpler and efficient ways without having to create a very different stack, right? So I think there is a big opportunity there that there will be a fundamentally different foundation model that works for robotics. I think lots of people are working on it. We don't have anything concrete to announce, but in general, yes, we are interested in robotics as well.
Hi, sir. So you mentioned about agents being the future. So what timeline do you perceive development of an agent that is able to carry out independent research on its own?
I think you saw the first example, right? Like with deep research.
Yeah.
It's a very good example of models doing independent research on its own.
Yeah.
And again, here research means doing analysis, searching for documents, compiling things and things like that. I think the capabilities of the models will evolve quite a bit even in 2025. I think one fundamental primitive we need is more the models learning to use tools. Okay. If let's say you're a chemical researcher, right? You want to research chemistry, you want to research things. Maybe you have applications or things that you need to teach the model how to use, right? Maybe there is a database of compounds that you need to read from and figure out how they react with each other. I don't know, I'm making this up along the way, but every domain has very specifics about what tools matter in that domain. how the tools should be called to build something together. And I think one fundamental primitive we need is to combine these tools with the reasoning models. And that should happen fairly soon. And once that happens, I think you will see a lot more innovation.
In that case, does research in all other domains become obsolete?
So I don't think it becomes obsolete this year, right? I think whereas like...
I mean, human research is
yeah, so if you look at the AI today, we are not in a world where AI is creating fundamentally new insights yet.
Okay.
Right? I haven't seen that yet, and I don't think we're there yet. So, but what is happening is that this year, the ability for humans to use the tools to accelerate their own research, I think will be very profound. Now, I would hope that in the future, the AI will also create fundamentally new insights on our behalf. But that is not quite, I don't know that, that's going to happen this year. We'll see.
Only this year, okay.
Hey. Hi, Srinivas. Thank you very much for the session. Just a quick question. Given that, there's DeepSeek coming up with models at $6 million, trained at $6 million, right? And of course, what we're seeing is OpenAI has a ChatGPT interface that you worked on. What I'm trying to ask is, given that now there are models that are also sort of having cross, innovation being passed on between models, how is, let us say, ChatGPT's interface or the API interface, giving OpenAI a moat to stay, as a, one of the leaders of the forefronts in this, let's say, LLM war?
Yeah. I think there's a question basically is if the models are getting commoditized, like what moats do people have? And the moats come from lots of different ways. I think fundamentally we want to build a product that people just really enjoy using. And the product is not just a model. The model, of course, is a big component of it, but the product is also, we want ChatGPT to be a super assistant for people that deeply understands you and can be very personalized based on what you care about and has context on the things that are going on in your life, right? And that requires not just a model, but it also requires personalization. It requires connecting to things that you care about. And so I think there's lots of innovation at the product layer as well, and ChatGPT is already doing some of them. We have this thing called memories that can remember things about things you have said in the past, and we can use that to make future responses better, right? So there's lots of innovation that we can bring, I think, at the product layer that will hopefully help us build a product that people really, really enjoy using, right? And we actually get a lot of feedback talking about how people enjoy using the product, and I think we want to continue doing that. The same thing with API. Again, it won't just be the model. The model is where we started, but APIs also, agentic applications will require more foundations for how to build agentic orchestration, right? So the agents need to connect with other tools. It needs sources of knowledge. It needs to orchestrate all these things. So I think there's definitely going to be opportunities to innovate at the higher layers of the stack. And that's how I think companies will differentiate.
Got it. Thank you.
To add to that also, I think just access, right? Different surfaces where you can access ChatGPT. And, just recently we had launched how you can access ChatGPT over WhatsApp. And so you'll simply start to have a conversation like you would in the ChatGPT app on over WhatsApp. And for India, it's a massive unlock, right? A lot of people don't have email addresses. So we're also rolling out, being able to connect that with your mobile phone. And then, if you're in a lower internet kind of space, you can easily still get access to those models. And so I think it's a bunch of things, but at least for India, where we want to build for population scale, providing access to models in different surfaces and different touch points is also very, very important. We're thinking about that all the time.
Sir, I broadly had 3 questions. Firstly, I see that you have a lot of products coming up now. You have deep research, you had search before, you had projects. Were any of those built by AI, or were they all built by human software developers?
AI was helpful in building the products, but it was built by the engineers in the company, yes.
Right. And how long do you think it will take for you to have an AI completely building a product, say, from the get-go? Do you see that happening anytime soon?
Yeah, I do think we're basically using coding assistants today, right? Like you can give small tasks to help you build this. I think, like I said, the complexity of the tasks that you can give the AIs is going to continue to increase over time. I would think that maybe today we are like at a task level.
Right.
Maybe this year we could have AI build features for us. Maybe next year will be projects, and maybe the year after will be entire like products. I don't know. That's like I'm taking a wild swing at this.
Right. So that's primarily because, say, now you've, say, might have eliminated, say, novices entirely from software developing. You might not need them. A company might not.
So we're not at the, yeah, sorry, finish your question.
Right. So don't you think that's kind of detrimental because they are the only people who might become senior software developers eventually?
Yeah.
And you might not really have them.
I mean, I think there's two answers to this. In the immediate future, I don't think this is happening because we're not quite at the replacement stage yet. And one answer would be that the more we can have AI help us build software, there's just way more software to be built in the world, and there's not enough software engineers to build all of them. Right. So hopefully we'll be able to build more. I think that's one type of answer. I do think longer term, there is uncertainty, and whenever there is major technological change, it's very hard to entirely predict what the jobs of the future are going to look like. And so I think in the next few years, I'm less worried. In like the 5+ years, what the jobs of the future are going to look like, I would say there is a little bit of uncertainty. We don't quite know yet.
Right. Another question is, right now I think it's mostly the attention mechanism that's at play. Is OpenAI looking at other architecture, or you're going to stick to this for a while?
No, there's always new research we would need, and there are research teams looking at different things, and
right.
Yeah, we'll continue to research that as well. Yeah.
Right.
And thank you, sir. Sorry to interrupt. We request the students to please keep it to one question in the interest of time, and to give enough opportunity, so that it doesn't take too much to answer. Thank you so much.
Good evening, sir. So I have just one question. That is, Sabir Bhatia, he said that AGIs can't be, they can't be made through LLMs because LLMs are trained mostly on existing information rather than coming up with more creative ideas. Whereas OpenAI, I think, wants to develop the AGIs through LLMs. So what is your viewpoint on this?
Yeah, I mean, the definition of LLM is also evolving, right? So it's not just predicting the next token. Now we have reasoning, we have RL in it. So I think we eventually want to build generalized intelligence that we can use to solve economically valuable tasks. We're going to have multiple approaches to doing that. I think we believe that the current architectures will get us fairly far. Do we know for sure whether it'll be the only thing that we ever need? I don't think we know that. I think there's still interesting research to be done, new things to be learned, and we're going to be adaptable, flexible, and learn along the way.
Oh, thank you. And I also wanted to thank you for ChatGPT. It has been very helpful, and thank you very much for building such an amazing product. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have time for last two questions, please.
Yes, sir. I have one question. So, on coming to AI agents, will AI agents took over the place of SaaS, or will it be the part of SaaS?
Yeah, I think there's huge applications for AI agents within various enterprises. Lots of what we call as SaaS applications will become more agentic, and some existing applications will integrate AI agents into it. But I think there'll also be completely new applications built because people never thought about automating certain things that are now we're able to automate and make agentic now, right? So yes, both.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I won't call you by what you were called on campus, but great to be here, and yeah, many years later. My question is a little specific. We are building agents to do application testing, so I just want to know if there are any tools right now in the market, any AI tools, or specifically coming from from OpenAI, or is there anything at all that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think this is a very ripe area. So the operator thing that I showed you earlier, I think testing is a massive use case for that. And we don't quite have operator in the API, but hopefully at some point we might. And that I think would be amazing to build. And yeah.
I have a whole bunch of questions, but I know I'm supposed to ask just one, so maybe I'll ask you later. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, and the other models too. It's not just operator. You can use software testing and automation through coding. The models are getting really good at reasoning and coding. So all of that you should be able to use to do automated testing.
Hello. Hello. Sir, can you please discuss your experience from various roles in various companies and from your last role in Facebook as a VP engineer there and now, and what are your insights to us so as we can also approach kind of your trajectory and may land into another place or yours?
Very open-ended question. So I'll think about it as career advice, right? I think for me, like my personal career trajectory, what has really worked for me is like finding the intersection of what you're really passionate about and where you can actually really have a big impact in the world. And I actually was extremely interested in AI back in when I was in college. I actually did a neural networks class, believe it or not, in the 90s. But AI wasn't a big thing back then, and so it wasn't clear to me that I could make any meaningful impact in the world working on AI back then. I could have been a researcher, but that's not what I wanted to do. I've always been more excited about building products and actually making practical things for the world. So AI wasn't a thing at that time, so I didn't work on it. I worked on other things. But always, for me, I started working on AI back in 2012, and there was a big ImageNet moment. And so I think when I saw that, it was like very clear that there was something very fundamental going on, and all the things I had like interest in at that time came back to me. And luckily, I was in a place where I could shift and spend more time on AI. That's what Meta allowed me. Meta was a fantastic company. I worked on other things, but one of the nice things about the company was that you could change what you wanted to do every few years, right? And the opportunity that I had then was amazing. So I just wanted to work on AI, and I said, yeah, this is what I want to do. So I think my advice would be find something you are innately passionate about, but also make sure that has real impact in the world and find that intersection.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Here. So I had a question related to the amount of data required to train these models, right? So since OpenAI has already like scrapped most of the internet, so do you think there is a shortage of new data to train these new models that you are coming up with? And I'm just curious, like how is OpenAI trying to solve those like data shortage issues?
Yeah, I think we do look at data and what are the ways that which we should do. One of the things I would say is that the reasoning models don't necessarily require as much data as like the sort of the pre-trained model era. And what you need is actually more harder tasks, and they actually do pretty well with very few examples and much less data. So I think that's one fundamental difference. The kinds of data that you need is also different. I think in the GPT 2, 3, 4 era, like you just need lots of pretext, and the models were trying to predict next tokens and stuff. With RL, you don't just need text, right? You need to be able to formulate tasks and answers. And so that's a slightly different way of thinking about it. It is a data problem, but a different type of data problem. So I think we need different types of tools for that. And so, yeah, I think fundamentally there is still a problem and a challenge to be solved here, which is how do we get the model examples or tasks or hard tasks for it to learn, and what tools and things that we need to develop. So, yeah, we're going to look at that and work on it.
Great.
This is
one last question.
Okay.
Sorry, I need to be the timekeeper, so
okay,
sorry about that.
Okay, I'm going to close with hopefully something a little open-ended. This is Pradeep with KLA. Fascinating set of slides that you had and amazing innovations. In your opinion, how do you define AGI? Now, this is a question that we see AGI getting redefined constantly, and of course, OpenAI has made commitments to deliver AGI, etc. Right? But and how do you think? What do you think the definition of AGI should be, and when do you think it becomes real for us?
Yeah, I think the word AGI is just so overused, and like there's like all these different definitions and all that stuff. But I think one definition we have used is that the ability for some AI system to do what we believe are economically valuable tasks, right? And that's, I think, is a very good barometer for intelligence. Like if it can do coding, if it can, be a sales agent, and like the things that we do that are important for society, can AI do them? I think we're getting close, honestly. I think like if you can do expert tasks at a human level, we would consider that to be AGI. Have we reached it today? Maybe not. but the trend is pretty exciting. Like you just look at the progression on O1, O3, we're beating all math benchmarks, we're beating all coding benchmarks. And so when I look at that, it feels like it's very imminent and around the corner. Yes, yeah. So the other thing obviously is also the safety element to this, which is as we have more intelligent and smarter models, we also need to think carefully about how do we deploy them in the real world, what are the risks. And so we take a lot of that pretty seriously. We have a preparedness framework that evaluates models for frontier models for different kinds of risks. Can you create weaponry out of them? Can the models autonomously operate without us asking them to do? Are they persuading us in ways that are unhealthy, et cetera, et cetera? So that is again another active area of research, and we work on it and we evaluate these models before we release them too.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Really enjoyed doing this with all of you. Amazing questions. Thank you.
A huge round of applause to Mr. Srinivas Narayanan. As we come to a close, I would like to invite Professor Ashwin and Mr. Kaviraj sir to please come on stage to felicitate Ms. Srinivas Narayanan with a memento and an Angavastram. We can come here in the front. So, in the front.
Here?
Yeah, just in the front so that we can see.
Photograph, it's easier.
Yeah.
This side.
Can we hear a huge round of applause, please? Thank you so much, everyone. To bring this event to a close, I request Mr. Kaviraj Nair, CEO of the Office of Institutional Advancement, to please present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, everyone, and it is such a wonderful opportunity to listen to the very inspiring talk by Srinivas Narayanan. I was just thinking, what an opportunity the students of IIT Madras has got. He has been working with Sam for the last 2 years. He has been at the cusp of things. He has had a key role in shaping the concept, the philosophy, the tools and techniques and everything around LLMs in the last few years. And that's clearly the undue advantage that you all have by being part of the IIT Madras community here. Thank you to the entire team from OpenAI here. We have Srinivas Narayanan and of course Pragya also. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to visit the campus and talk to us. Thank you to Professor Ashwin, Dean Ashwin, who has graced the occasion with his presence, and to the student community and friends and family of IIT Madras, all who have been present here to make this a very memorable occasion. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you so much, sir. A small announcement. We have refreshments being served in the main dining hall right opposite. Thank you all. I hope you have a great evening and a wonderful weekend ahead.